Can we talk about the releases so far in 2025? First, let me start with the most recent release. We gotta talk about Metal Cooler. I think Metal Cooler is one of the most innovative and creative units that we've got this year. They didn't go too overboard, some people might disagree, but the idea to implement his clones through the comeback mechanic is honestly really fire. The fact that they show scenes from the movie is really cool and should definitely be appreciated. In this case, they're copying the source material 1-to-1. I spoke about how legendary finishes are good based on what you appreciate, and in this case, taking direct references from the movie and putting them into the gameplay makes you appreciate the unit that you're using, or even if you're just fighting them, it feels a lot better. There's even a couple Easter eggs with him. Supposedly, depending on how many comebacks you have left, you will see the extra copy of Metal Cooler in the background on his windscreen. So if you haven't lost any comebacks, there will be 3. If you have lost one, then there will be 2, and if you've lost both, there will only be 1 on the windscreen. But not every unit this year has got that treatment, which is very unfortunate, and I would say a lot of them have been more bland than not. So I wanted to talk about it in this video in a lot more detail, touching on the periods that we've got this year so far. Let's get into this. If we dive into the 7th anniversary, I really want to big up the ground battles for the visual aesthetic. If you have your gameplay complaints, I can completely understand, as I've complained about my phone performing at the same level as Heat Blast on the Omnitrix. Why is my phone so hot playing the hit mobile game Dragon Ball Legends? But back to the aesthetics, I think they did a really good job implementing the new visuals, the animations that they've added that have come with the ground battles update, the dynamic area battles. But in addition to that, specifically with Kaioken Goku and Vegeta, the Saiyan Saga Legends Limited that we got for part 2, those 2 units coming with their unique voice lines depending on the time those taps is very, very nostalgic, and a lot of people like that. Taking again from the source material, people love this, getting that feeling that you're back in Dragon Ball Z mid-battle. It's something that isn't done a lot nowadays in games. If I mention one game that does it exceptionally well, the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm series, just getting a few finishes in a certain way, you'll get extra cutscene and things like that. I find that super pleasing as a fan of the franchise, as most people are playing it because in this case, you're a Dragon Ball fan. So big props to the part 2 units for adding the extra aesthetic. But what kind of throws me is there was no extra implementation for the other part 1 and part 3 characters. I find it unreal that Goku and Frieza did not get anything like that for a time those taps animation. I would at least hope Goku and Frieza at least did the thing where they hold hands and they were pushing up against each other, and then depending on who wins, you get an outcome based on the attacks either one can do. It's a small thing that they could have added, and it makes no sense why they didn't add it. Also, in addition to that, they could have added some animations for MUI Goku versus SSBE Vegeta. I know they already had released, but just the animations, it doesn't need to be something additional in their kit. For example, the part 2 units, when you do get the time those taps, Goku and Vegeta get buffs accordingly to do more damage against each other. Especially because we had the event with MUI Goku and SSBE Vegeta facing off, it would have been cool to have them do a face-off. Even if it just imitates the part 2 characters, but in their strongest form, it would have been a nice touch. I feel like making the whole 7th anniversary event SSBE versus MUI Goku themed and not having them have some animations coming with the dynamic area battles is kind of underwhelming and something that could have easily been implemented. But they get props for the part 2 characters, but I think they could have done a bit more with the part 3 especially, but also the part 1 characters. Now, whatever happened with Dragon Ball Saga, they got hold. Dragon Ball Saga got put in the dirt. Now, not too much on the animations for them. I think their animations are actually pretty cool, and the devs did a good job of replicating what happened in the anime. But boy, there is nothing special about these units, and also just the units themselves perform so bad, at least in comparison to the rest of the game. Now, I do understand that you could build a decent Dragon Ball Saga team if you have all the pieces. Emphasis on all the pieces, and at that it's going to require a lot of investment, but there's only a few Dragon Ball fans that would be able to pull that off. So just what's going on here? There's really nothing unique to come out of Dragon Ball Saga, at least the premium units, but we will give Jackie Chun his props. The way they implemented after image into his green card so that you could actually get out of attacks is very, very beautiful. Why is the sparking carrying? It just don't make sense. It just doesn't. There are other cases where Sparkings also did good things, so when I spoke about the 7th anniversary, I didn't touch on anything else that they did drop. I'm definitely not going to talk about SSBE Vegeta's Evolve Gauge, but shout out Nappa, even though he sucks. The Cybermen mechanic is pretty cool nonetheless, and a lot of us were expecting it to be implemented into a unit like Metal Cooler, but they didn't do that. Nonetheless, I think it's a very interesting decision to make the Sparking more unique and creative than the premium units, especially considering you're meant to be trying to sell your premium units. It just seems like they're working backwards to me. There's nothing more to say about Dragon Ball Saga, to be honest. They've easily been snubbed the most out of any single tag this year that has got buffs in some way, shape or form. I don't think I need to talk much about the master class, which is Dragon Ball DAIMA. Easily top 2 legendary finishes that we got this year so far. Those two being Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. Especially because these are brand new forms for the Dragon Ball franchise. There's so much hype following these units and we didn't expect to get them so soon. Also, that being that we're the only Dragon Ball game with both of them. So it's like, whoa, they really blew our expectations out the water and dropped us units we didn't expect to get, and also made their animations perfect. Not only did they execute the one-to-one references, so it looks just like the anime. I'm not gonna say better because I don't think so, but it looks just as good and you can appreciate the graphics, but there's also extra effects added to make it good. The sound effects as well, people like to bring up specifically with Super Saiyan 4 Goku's animation that he literally mutes all the gameplay. The music turns off so that we can lock in on his legendary finish, and I think small touches like that increases the immersion we have when we play Dragon Ball Legends. Dragon Ball DAIMA, truly successful campaign. Obviously it came out toxic with the PvP meta and the DAIMA team being so overpowered, but nonetheless they executed the team very well, which is why it was thriving, not just in terms of their talents or their kit, but aesthetically we got very good animations out of them. Top of the crop, not just good. Now I will say we didn't get any special mechanics or anything like that out of them, but I can let it slide given they literally gave us the best animations they probably could have. So they will get a pass for having literally A1 animations. Let's talk about Cell Saga. So we got 2 units here, Ultra Perfect Cell and Super Saiyan Goku, the instant transmission Goku. Now honestly, I think they dropped the ball with the instant transmission Goku. I have recently gone back and looked at his legendary finish and I love it so much more than ever now. I really honed in and looked at it, and there's not many cuts. Their camera's literally following him, and for me, camera work is amazing. I feel like if legendary finishes had less cuts and the camera followed the character around, every legendary finish would look 10 times better. Just like in an action movie where the actors act out every single part of a fight scene without cuts, they do it in one setting. You can appreciate that a lot more, and I feel the same way when it comes to animation. But his kit just wasn't it, man. They basically honed him in on being a green card merchant. He does have a lock-in ultimate, but they easily could have brought back the instant transmission mechanic that we've got on the green instant transmission Goku. It could have been through blue card, it could have been his ultimate, it could have just been a green card that you can activate in that way, but they didn't do anything creative like that. They kept him plain and bland. If anything, they tried to make him toxic, but he just doesn't do enough damage to be that. So in a sense, maybe you want to call him underrated, but for most people he's just not good. And in terms of creativity, it's almost as if they didn't try. But with Ultra Perfect Cell, I will give them the props. They didn't bring up anything new, but they did give him the tap actions art, which I think he definitely does deserve, especially considering that they gave Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan the blue card counter. I think Cell getting the tap actions art to have a devastating ultimate, it does so much damage, was a very good addition. The Solar Kamehameha, this is going out of space. It's going to do amazing damage, and that's what we expect from it, but also feeling like you're adding to that damage. Tapping on the screen makes you feel like you're playing a console game from the Budokai Tenkaichi series, and I love that feeling honestly, and a lot of you guys can relate, not all of you, but it's something to spice up the experience in Dragon Ball Legends. Now we've got the Future campaign where we got 2 characters. I don't even know if I want to call it a Future campaign, but we got 2 Legends Limited here, Fusion Zamasu and Gohan and Trunks. Now these 2 units, in the same way of the DAIMA campaign, they did amazing. Fusion Zamasu, I know his kit to some people it's not good. I think he's extremely underrated. I think he's good, but it just depends on how you build him and knowing how to use him. And I don't like saying that because I feel like it's a cult term, but really for Fusion Zamasu, if you build him defensively, as long as he's not getting rushed, in a sense, he's like a toned down Kaioken Goku. But his legendary finish, the vibrant colors, it's one of the better ones that we got this year. The top half of better legendary finishes. Fusion Zamasu has such bright colors, the camera work, and of course, it just feels very explosive. There's a lot lot going on to show the true power of the one carrying out the Zero Mortal plan. His model is also very aesthetically pleasing. Going into Gohan and Trunks though, I don't think I need to say much about it. I did it. I became a Super Saiyan. The devs really went out their way to pull on our heartstrings and recreate the moment depending on the outcome of the game. So if you win as Trunks, given that Gohan has died, so the succession gets carried out, you will get a unique cutscene. And the cutscene, when we all saw it, we were thinking, wow, Dragon Ball Legends are going up and beyond. The rubble and the environment added to the cutscene also adds to the general atmosphere that you see when you win with this character. And it contrasts the feeling of winning. You won, but at what cost? Gohan's life, that is. And I don't feel like there's anything more they could have added to make this unit special. A lot of people would hold this as the best unit we've got this year, at least in terms of creativity. Me personally, I think I've got Metal Cooler right now, but it might be a bit of recency bias. But if it's not Metal Cooler, for sure, easily, it's going to be Gohan and Trunks. As you can see, there's some units that have gone above and beyond, then other units they didn't do too much on. There were some things I didn't mention, for example, Ultra Super Saiyan Goku's KO guard. That's a very good new mechanic and it adds to the feeling of what happened on Namek. But I feel like those were kind of self-explanatory, so I didn't add to it. It's more so what was missing, but there definitely is a lot to appreciate. But I feel like with some of these units, they easily could have added more. I know they don't want to be too repetitive, but even the Goku Youth we got this year, why is the free-to-play a tad bit more creative with his green card, having the power pole spin and being able to start a combo off that? Stuff like that really gets me thinking, are they even trying to sell us a premium unit? And it kind of hurts, especially if you are a big fan of these type of characters. I think the idea itself is super easy to do, but I might be underselling how much effort they put in to create these units. The developers definitely work hard, but I hate the feeling of they're just releasing units for the sake of releasing units, as I'd want every unit, especially if you're someone that's been saving for a specific unit, you'd want them to be special.
I just remembered I didn't talk about Kefla, but like there's nothing there. She just has a nice legendary finish, I guess. And to some people, it's mediocre.
But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name's Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.